Hello, my name is Jamie and welcome to this tutorial. Today we're going to continue with the short film series. We're going to continue in the modelling phase today. And today we're going to model a table. Time's a little bit limited for me, so I'm just going to cover the modelling part today. And we'll hopefully follow up with a video on unwrapping and texturing the table in the next few days. So really to start off with a table, I will just quickly model in the top of the table. So I'll tab into edit mode just with the default cube, which will be fine. And just holding shift down, I'll make sure I turn on my screencast keys. So yeah, just holding shift down and then right mouse button on each of those vertices. I can then move them up on the z-axis to create a sort of tabletop. And I'm in perspective mode, which I might turn off just for now. And then I'll select everything with A whilst in edit mode. I'll go to the top, which is 7 on the numpad, and then S and Y. And I just want to create a sort of slightly longer shape. Probably, so I've got a square, and then I want a, sort of a bit longer than a square, not too much longer. It's not going to be a huge table, but about that sort of size is fine for now. So now we'll go on and model in the legs. So we'll tab out of edit mode to go into object mode because we want to create the legs as separate objects. And then I will add in a cube with shift A. And then we'll tab back into edit mode and we'll scale that down quite a lot. And then I will hit Z to go into wireframe. And I'm just going to turn on snap during transform over increment, just so I can get this in the right spot. Tab into object mode just to move that like that. So it's about in the corner. It doesn't have to be perfectly aligned like that, but I just want it to be snapped into a position like this for positioning them later on, because we'll be duplicating it. So we'll tab into edit mode again, select the top, B to box select, and just bring that top bit up to intersect with the table. And you probably want it to just intersect pretty much all the way up. So if I hit 3 on my numpad to go into side view, pretty close to the top there. That's probably about the right size length for the leg. I might want it a bit longer. So yeah, probably about there. And I don't want just a boring straight cube box leg. That's a bit boring. So what we'll do is first of all create a rounded section pretty much all the way down. I'll just get the top fairly square in shape, just to create a fun sort of a lathed shape wooden leg. So I'll start with Control R and left click on the table leg and bring that up with your mouse, and then left click again to confirm the placement. And so I want probably bring that down a little bit more. I have got a reference picture that I'm looking at. Just go to Google, I suppose, and Google up a table, a wooden table, or any sort of style of table leg that you sort of want to go for. You can pretty much model this to be however you like, but I like this style of table leg, so this is what I'm going for. And then I'll click, do Control R and create another one that's quite close to that. Now I'm going to Control R, left click, and then right click to create a section coming over the loop there, and then I'll do another one here, and I'll right click to get that dead in the center. Now I'm going to select these vertices I go into top mode, or top view, Z to go to wireframe mode, and then I'm just going to hit S to scale, and just get that looking fairly rounded. If you want to be perfect, you can add in a circle object, which would involve bringing the Shift S, bring the cursor to active, and then Shift A to bring in a circle with 8 vertices, which is there, and I can scale that down and see that I'm pretty close. Yeah, so I've aligned it to those 4 corners, and then I can tab back into edit mode, select that, select that, select that, select that. Make sure I've only got, actually, I can see which ones I moved because I've scaled them in the Z-axis as well, which is not a worry. So I will scale them up a little bit more, just so I've got that uniform amount of space between the circle and the circle, and that's pretty much perfect. I can get rid of that circle now, but as I showed you just then, I've scaled in the Z-axis as well, so to fix that I'm going to hit S and then Z, so I'm just scaling in the Z-axis, and I can eyeball that just to get that pretty much right there. To avoid doing that, or having to do that step, you can just hit Shift Z when you're scaling, and that removes the Z axis from what you're currently doing. And then just using the loop cut tool, we can just create a bunch of segments and lathe in some stuff. First thing I'm going to do though is scale the whole leg down, so Shift Z, S for scale and then Shift Z, so we're not scaling up or down. I just want the square bit to be larger than the circle here, or the round bit. But I don't want the round bit to be too small, so that looks okay. So Control R just to divide that in 2. Then I'm going to bring this bit up to about there, maybe a bit more, and I'm going to want to just going to X, so I'll right click on the edge loop to select it, and then X and edge loop, because I want to scale this up a bit to create a sort of a slope that's coming down, so it tapers down in. And I have to box select that in wireframe mode and then scale that down a bit more, just so there's some shape coming to the leg now. Bring that down a bit, and then in this section we're going to have sort of like a ball with like a donut sitting on top of it. So to do that, I'm going to Control R. I'm going to make it completely all the way up and meet with this edge here, and then left click and bring that down in the Z axis, so I've got this flat portion. Now I only want a small amount of this to be exactly like that, so probably about down to there. And then Control R, I'll move my mouse cursor up just 1 notch to add in another loop cut, and then S to scale, and I don't mind it going up in the Z axis because so I'll go to about there, And then I'm going to encourage that scaling in the Z axis a bit by hitting S then just Z. So I've got quite this steep bit here. Then I'm going to create another edge dead in the center. So right clicking to cancel any movement and after confirming that you want to cut. And then scale it up a bit. So I've got this rounded donut shape going around there. And then we'll repeat the process again to create a ball. So create a loop cut, bring it up there, slide it down, and that's fine like that. I want a little bit to come out like that. This time we can do the same. So we'll scale that up to about there. I'll encourage it, not quite as much as I did with the donut, but still a little bit. And then create a new loop cut, dead in the center, so right clicking, and we've got this ball shape. I might want to lengthen that a bit. So the easiest way to do that would be to select this and select these. So Alt Shift and right click to select all of those, and I'll just scale in the Z axis a bit so it's a bit more rounded. Bring that down and then select this loop just with Alt and then right mouse and bring that down. So we've got a fairly big ball shape there. That looks okay. And I'm probably going to want to make the leg a bit longer. And I might bring this up just a bit. That looks alright. Now one thing I do want to do is select these 4 vertices and just bring them down in the Z axis a bit. And that will just create a little bit of roundedness there. And then we want just a little, probably just a little donut shape before the foot of the leg, I suppose. So we'll do that as well. So similar process, Control R to loop cut, left click all the way at the bottom, bring that up. I want the foot itself to be about that big. So then I will bring in another loop cut there, 2 cuts, scaling them up in the Z, bring in another cut, scale that up, and then I want this here, and scale that up a bit. So it's mostly just cutting things and getting them to be the right sort of width that you want. And there's a little foot to the table leg. Now it's looking very square and faceted, so I'll select everything in edit mode with A, shade smooth. Now it still looks a bit weird, so I'm going to do Control 3. And that's rounded it all out by adding in a subsurf modifier with 3 subdivisions. And I'll turn up the render to 3 as well. Actually, I'll turn up the render to 4. And we need to do a little bit of edge reinforcement. Now there are 2 ways to do that. One is by bringing in a new edge, a new loop cut, and bringing it pretty close to the existing edge, and that creates this sharper look. It's not always going to be possible though, because say I wanted to create a sharper edge here, just the top of the square. It's created that edge there, but it's also created an edge down the whole leg, which is not ideal. So to get around that, first we'll reinforce that a bit more on the bottom. So if you reinforce from both sides, you get a nice sharp looking edge. But I'll just Control Tab to go to edge mode, select this edge, Shift right click to select this edge, and this edge. and I'll hit N to bring up the properties panel. Scroll all the way to the top where it says transform. It might be closed up, just open that up by left clicking on there, or you can hit A to open that with your mouse hovering over it. And then the mean crease, crank that up. And it sort of worked on a bit of it, but not all the way down. So we can select the next edge down. And we'll just select those. If you select the wrong ones, just select it again with Shift. And that deselects it. So now I've got those 4 little edges selected. I'll increase the main crease on them, and that's brought that down a bit further, and that looks okay to me. From the looks of things, it's still coming in towards the top, so I'm going to add in a loop cut and bring that up. So that looks okay now. And I'll add in just a couple of edges along each of these sort of dividing parts between each little section. So one above it and one below it. Creates a nice sharp edge. One above it, one below it. Now I also want this edge here to be quite sharp, so I'll reinforce that with edges as well. And because my loop cut was out of view, like that, what I can do to avoid having to undo and redo and all that sort of stuff, I can do Control E and edge slide. Just bring that up nice and close. I can do that again and just bring that in nice and tight. So I've got a nice solid edge there, and then we can just do that down at the bottom as well. And I'm an idiot again, so I can edge slide again, but it's good to show you the edge slide technique, which, not edge split. Edge slide is quite useful for fixing things. And then I will just bring that back in. That looks okay. Great, couple more edges there. And just one on the bottom. If I want to reinforce that a bit more, what I could do is select these 4 faces and then just do a quick extrusion and scale that in without moving the extrusion anywhere. So I've got a lot sharper edge on the bottom. And then to finish off the table, first we need 4 legs. So what I'm going to do, go into top view, hit Z so I can see what's going on, and I'm going to hit Alt D to create a linked duplicate. I'm going to right click and turn on snapping again and just bring that across. And then select both of these, go Alt D, right click and bring them down. And this means that when it comes to editing one leg for unwrapping and stuff, we only have to do it to one leg and not repeat the process for each one. Although just to get variation in textures, we can probably adjust the UVs a little bit, but it's not going to be a huge job. So we'll just finish off the tabletop, which I want to be quite thin, just the very top of the table I want to be quite thin, and then I'll bring in some planks that can be alongside. Make sure you turn off snapping. So probably about like that. And I'm going to select this top face and scale it in. not a lot. Just move your mouse further away from the center of the object if that's what you're scaling around. Although I appear to be scaling around selected, which is okay. Then I'm going to add in a loop cut there. Scale that up a bit. And maybe bring that up in the Z-axis just a little bit. Just so there's a slight curve coming off to it. And I'm going to scale it up, hit Shift Z, and just create that slightly more edge there. I'm just going to bring this back up a bit as well. So I want the edge to be fairly gradual, but not too gradual, so that looks okay. And then I'm just going to extrude this up a little bit. Okay, that's good. So go into object mode, Shift S, cursor to center, then Shift A, and bring in a new cube. And we'll just quickly edit this to fit as a plank between the legs down here. And this is sort of fairly common in tables. It means that I don't have to use such a thick piece of wood for the top, which makes the table lighter. So I've scaled it so that it's intersecting. I've just scaled along Y so that it intersects with where the table legs are. And then I need to scale that down in X by a lot. Probably about there. Then I can bring that in to here. And that looks okay. So I can, I'm just going to Shift D, because it's a fairly, actually no, I'm going to need to do some edge reinforcement quickly first. So I'm going to hit Control 2 to create a subsurf modifier. I'm going to shade smooth in edit mode under the W menu, and then just Control R, scroll it up so you got 2, and then S and Y to bring both of those edges out. And then do the same going in the other direction, so Control R, scroll it up, and then S and Z to create that edge reinforcement there. Oops. So we've got that. And I'm going to have to just completely reinforce at the top here. That's better. So then we can duplicate this object here. Bring it over here. Bring that about there. Then I'm going to duplicate it again. Hit R and then 90. Bring it to the front. Just in side view, get it to about there. And then in edit mode, S and X to bring that in a bit. And then Shift D. And bring that back there. Now the origin of some of these objects have gone a bit off, so we can fix that with Object, Transform, and Origin to Geometry. And I'll just do that on all of these planks. And that's that. We just need to add in a subsurf modifier here and do a quick bit of edge reinforcement as well. Yeah, so I do want to use just Control R and then bring that up after your first click, because that reinforces more along the sort of slanted edge here, rather than creating a straight edge and just bring it out. And then I'll do the same on this side as well, and then on these two sides. I'll just go A, W, shade smooth, and I probably want to reinforce this edge here, and this edge a little bit, and you got a table. Yeah, hopefully you've learned a little bit about hard surface modelling. Obviously some of the most important things are the edge reinforcement, especially with the use of the subsurf modifier. That allows you to create these sort of hard edges, but you still want it to be a little bit rounded, because that helps with sort of realism side of things. You can see some of these are still slightly rounded, because as people sort of move around and use things, edges get worn down. And you'll notice if you're rendering stuff, having these sort of slight rounded edges, the light still catches on them. So when it comes to rendering, you'll see an improvement in your objects that way. So yeah, hopefully I will get that unwrapping and texturing part of this up in the next few days. And until then, good luck and have fun.